All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with the little San Francisco Giant video. Are the Giants on the verge of signing another client of Scott Boras? We'll talk about that coming up next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Krug sent you. And of course, this video is also brought to you by Mojo Fantasy. I'm loving Mojo Fantasy. Check that link in the description. Use the promo code Krug, K-R-U-E-G, and they will match you up to your first $100. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Giants. The Giants have been very quiet this offseason, but it sounds like they're on the verge of signing another Scott Boras client. And it's not the Scott Boras client that I was hoping they were going to sign, but one of the two other Scott Boras clients that they're showing interest in. Scott Boras represents Cody Bellinger. He represents Matt Chapman, and he represents Blake Snell. And the Giants badly need Cody Bellinger. The Giants had a disaster middle of the lineup last year. Bellinger's one of the most intriguing free agents in recent seasons. He was the 2019 National League MVP. He's one of the best young hitters in the league that year. And then he had some shoulder injuries that derailed his career in 2021, in 2022. And then out of nowhere last year, his whole production came back, and he hit 307 with the Cubs with a 356 on base, 525 slugging, 26 home runs. He had the lowest strikeout rate of his career. He can play center field. He can play first base. He's versatile. He's got power. He's got speed. The Giants have a disastrous offense. Terrible. The Giants' offense was awful. It was the worst offense in baseball for like 3 months last year. They are a bad offensive team. They need Cody Bellinger in the worst way. And he's only 28, and he can play first and he can play center. And he would give the Giants a real dynamic bat in the middle of their lineup. Are they going to get him? No, they're not going to get him. It sounds like he's going to go to the Cubs or Toronto. So which of these Boras candidate clients are the Giants interested in? It's the other two, Blake Snell and Matt Chapman. And it's not that I'm super anti on Snell. He had a 2.25 ERA last year. He had a whip of 1.19. He made 32 starts. He was unhittable at times. But the one issue with him is his age. He's 31. It's going to cost a lot of money. Boras always milks the most out of every player out there. And if you look at his stats, you know, he had a 2.25 ERA last year, but the year before it was 3.38. The year before that, it was 4.20. I'm a little concerned about durability with this pitcher. He is heading into his age 31 season. He's never thrown 200 innings in a season, ever. He's coming off a year where he had 180 innings pitched, 115 hits. Now, I mean, the Giants could totally use Snell. Don't get me wrong. They absolutely could. He would be a great addition. He was won the Cy Young Award, was 13th in the MVP voting. He's a good pitcher. There's no question. I mean, Blake Snell is a really good pitcher. Is he the pitcher that he was early in his career? I don't know about that, but he's a West Coast guy that wants to be West. He was born in Seattle, drafted by Tampa in the first round of the 2011 amateur draft. He went to Shorewood High School in Washington State. He stepped into the big leagues and won 21 games as a 25-year-old in 2018 with a 1.89 ERA. And, you look at him, he's a big, tall, left-handed pitcher, 6'4", 225, which Giants typically like. They like the bigger starting pitchers. In this last year, he made 32 starts for the Padres, 2.25 ERA. There's nothing really not to like about Blake Snell. As long as he's healthy and you don't sign him for more than like 5 years, that's probably a good signing. just because the Giants need somebody behind Logan Webb, and it makes a lot of sense that they would get Blake Snell. But they are a bad offensive team, and they really badly need some offense. And it just Cody Bellinger is absolutely the guy who would change their offense. Instead, it sounds like if they're going to get a hitter here, it's going to probably be Matt Chapman. Now, I understand that Matt Chapman played for Melvin, but the Giants already have Casey Schmidt, and Casey Schmidt is a young third baseman that just needs an opportunity to play. And the Giants promoted him out of the minors last year, and they asked him to play shortstop. How many third basemen? How many third basemen? And this kid's thought to be a future Gold Glove third baseman. How many great defensive third basemen can you just stick at shortstop and have them not miss a beat? I mean, it's asking an awful lot. Now, I guess you could play Casey Schmidt a little bit at shortstop. You got Marco Luciano there. Maybe Luciano could share shortstop with Casey Schmidt. But it just seems to me that Casey Schmidt should be allowed to play his position, which is third base. And are you telling me that Casey Schmidt wouldn't hit at least 240? I mean, Matt Chapman in 2023 hit 240. In 2022, he hit 229. In 2021, he hit 210. In 2020, he hit 232. The guy hasn't hit over 250 since 2018. That's a long time ago. He was 25 at that point. Chapman's probably going to get at least a 5-year deal. So you're going to get age 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. You're going to get, his 30 through 35 age seasons. And to me, it's like I'm kind of concerned over you're probably going to wind up paying him $150 million. It's an awful lot of money when you've got Casey Schmidt, who's on the major league minimum that you can put at third base, and he can play the hell out of third base. Now, Matt Chapman's a great defensive third baseman. He's a 4-time Gold Glove winner. He's coming off of winning the Gold Glove last year in Toronto. So he's a great defensive third baseman. He's one of the best defensive third basemen I've ever seen. He's right there with the greatest you've ever seen. Brooks Robinson, Matt Williams, Mike Schmidt. You think of some of the great defensive third basemen that you've ever seen. This guy's as good as any of them. There's no doubt. He's a great defensive player, but so's Casey Schmidt. Schmidt's a terrific third baseman. And the difference between Schmidt and Chapman is not worth $150 million on a team that's got money to spend, but somewhat of a limited budget. So I don't know. I like Chapman, but I'd rather see them go with Casey Schmidt and go spend that money at first base. Why not go get Rhys Hoskins? Why not go get Cody Bellinger? And then you could have a great defensive third baseman in Casey Schmidt. But the Giants, Chapman may want to play for, at this point, it's like Farhan can just get who he can get. I don't get the vibe that there's a real conviction on Farhan's point on any of these players. It's just like, who can we get? Who can we possibly get to sign here? And here's Chapman, who's a California guy, who's born in Victorville, came up in the A's organization, knows Bob Melvin, and so he knows the Bay Area, so he's willing to be here. But the Giants are going to wind up paying him a ton of money. And is he going to give you that much more than what Casey Schmidt gives you? And then what's going to happen to Casey Schmidt? Are you going to play him at short? Are you going to trade him? It seems like if you traded him right now, you're not going to get real value for him. So I'd rather go with Rhys Hoskins. I'd rather go with Cody Bellinger. I'd rather get an offensive player. The Giants so badly need a middle of the order bat. I mean, who's going to hit 3, 4, 5? Matt Chapman in an ideal world hits like 6. In a championship lineup, he's going to hit like 6, 7. But in the Giants lineup, they're going to wind up hitting him third. or fourth. So I don't know. It just, once again, it's like, I don't really think the Giants are not about like, we want this guy and here's why. It's like, well, who can we get? They overpaid a ton for Jung Hoo Lee, a ton. And now Boras is going to rip them off again for either monster money for Snell or monster money for Chapman. I guess I'd be more of a fan of getting Snell because the Giants really need another starting pitcher to slate in behind behind Logan Webb, and Snell, as a lefty would give them a veteran lefty that could start, opening day, or he could start game 2. If it was a playoff series, you could go with Webb in game 1 and Snell in game 2, and so that would help. So I guess if it came down to Chapman or Snell, I'd vote for Snell. But I don't want either one of those guys. I want Cody Bellinger. I want Rhys Hoskins. I want somebody who can hit 3, 4, or 5 in the middle of the Giant lineup. Your lineup is who you go to support. If you're a baseball fan, your team is the team that you put out there every day. It's great to have some good pitching. There's no doubt, and you need pitching. But the team that you go to support and watch every day is the team that's out there every day. And I don't get it. I mean, why do you not want Rhys Hoskins? The guy rakes. He's a right-handed power hitter who can hit 3 or 4 in your lineup. Why do you not want Cody Bellinger? The guy is coming off of a major season. Um, I guess you could argue that you think his shoulder problems that he had in the years prior may come back, but I think he's over that. I mean, Bellinger is a guy who can play center. He can play first. He's fast. He can hit 3, 4, 5. I mean, the Giants don't have a middle of the lineup that's any good right now. They badly, badly need somebody who can hit 3, 4, or 5 in a major lineup and score runs. And they just don't have that right now. So, and I don't know that Matt Chapman is the answer. And I really don't love that signing because you got Casey Schmidt sitting right there. And we just talked to Casey Schmidt a few weeks ago for over an hour. He's fired up. I really think he's going to hit a whole lot better in 2024 than he hit in 2023 if you just let him play the position that he plays, which is third base. Put Casey Schmidt at third base and forget about it. Let him be your everyday third baseman. Instead, you're gonna pay Chapman $150 to $170 million, and you're either gonna have to trade Casey Schmidt or play him out of position once again at shortstop in some kind of platoon that doesn't really, an all righty platoon with Marco Luciano. So I'm seeing the reports. This is a Jeff Passan report from ESPN. He says one team opposing organizations expect to sign at least one of the top end Boras clients is the Giants, who pursued Ohtani and Yamamoto, only to see the Dodgers guarantee that the pair more than $1 billion. This is according to Jeff Passan. San Francisco needs talent badly, even after the addition of free agent Jung Hoo Lee on a $113 million deal. Whether it's Chapman or Snell, it says Chapman, Snell, or both, the Giants have the money and the incentive to make a splash. That's great, but the Giants could not hit a lick. The Giants were the worst offensive team for like 3 months last year. Really did not hit, couldn't score runs. And you've got a chance for Rhys Hoskins and a chance for Cody Bellinger. And it sounds like Bellinger is going to wind up going back to the Cubs or maybe going to Toronto. He says Bellinger remains one of the most intriguing free agents. He was the 2019 MVP. He's one of the best young hitters in the league before shoulder injuries derailed his career. But he was good last year, 307, 26 home runs. Didn't strike out a bunch. Very athletic. Excellent defensively at every outfield spot. He's only 28. But it doesn't sound like they're going to go with Bellinger. Sounds like they're going to try to sign Matt Chapman, who hasn't hit 250 in 5 years, and Blake Snell. So, and they're going to throw a ton of money at these guys. And it really just comes down to who can you attract to your place. And the bottom line is Snell is a West Coast guy, probably wants to pitch West. Being in the Giants ballpark is always attractive. And Chapman likes playing for Melvin, probably liked being in the Bay. And those are the two guys they're going to get. They need Cody Bellinger. They need Reese Hoskins. They need an offensive player that can hit 3, 4, or 5 badly, really, really badly. And they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it. Or if they're going to get it, they're going to get it in a trade. They're not going to get it in free agency. So we'll see. I like Snell. I like Chapman, but not probably for the kind of money that Boras is gonna get in free agency from the Giants. And if it really came down to it, I'd rather have Cody Bellinger. I'd rather have Reese Hoskins. I'd rather have a hitter that can hit 3, 4, or 5 in next year's lineup. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Mojo Fantasy for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.